Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Powerful Perspectives. I'm Brandon and I have a metaphor that I'd like to share with you today that I found interesting and insightful and kind of beautiful in its own little way. It actually came from something that one of my friends shared with me a while back. Said that the seasons, so for those countries in the world that have four seasons, four separate seasons, and where they're able to distinguish more between those seasons, the seasons kind of act as a metaphor or representation of our life and of the different stages of life. And I thought that was really interesting and really insightful, and it kind of got me to thinking about how that could apply or how that could be true. And so I think about, springtime. Springtime would be like for when we're babies, toddlers, adolescents, and not adolescents, but babies and toddlers mostly. And it's really a time of drastic growth, drastic change. It's the start of new life. And babies and infants are budding and flowering into children and into their new life. They're finding that beauty, and it's a formative time with lots of change, lots of growth. There tends to be a lot of rain in the springtime, and rain we can think of as crying, wetting diapers, these kind of things. It kind of lines up nicely to see springtime as kind of a time of infancy. And then we move to summer. And summer is our teenage years. And for many of us, it's kind of like the golden years, the golden age of our lives. It's when many of us feel the hottest in terms of physical attraction. And it's when we start finding other people hot, right? All of us we go through puberty and we start to develop physical attraction for other people around us. And it's a time when all of that starts to happen. There's also there doesn't tend to be as many clouds during this time, not as much rain. So I mean, the crying maybe doesn't happen quite as often in adolescence as it does. Certainly babies cry a lot more than I would say teenagers do. But also it's generally sunny with not too many clouds. And so clouds I might see kind of as worries or concerns or responsibilities, weight of the world. Teenagers are at this interesting point where they have just a lot of good, a lot of fun, a lot of great opportunities, but not a whole lot of responsibility that is set in yet. And so, those are kind of some ways that I see as, summer kind of acting as a good metaphor for the teenage years. And then we enter fall or autumn, which is another transformative time. Similar to spring, there's a lot of change. It's when our true colors start coming out in terms of, leaves, but also just metaphorically, symbolically, our personalities, our characteristics, who we're really going to be as people starts to really show more. And we become individuals. I mean, you can argue that some of that maybe starts in adolescence already, but I think really in our young adult years, and kind of 20s, 30s, you really start to discover for yourself, okay, who am I going to be independently? When I'm not defined by my friend group, when I'm not defined by my family or by people around me, who am I as an individual? That really becomes a central focus and a central theme and a central need during this time. It's also the time maybe towards the end of fall or autumn, or the end of this age in our lives, where our hair also, or our leaves start changing color, and for some of us starts falling out. And so kind of an interesting, metaphor and kind of connection there as well. And then we get into winter, and winter is for the elderly, for the senior community. Everything is white. We, like, from the hair to the shoes, sometimes my father likes to say, sometimes for the elderly people, he calls them Q-tips, like white hair, white shoes. But everything is white, right? Both in terms of winter and snow, but also in terms of the elderly. It's also a time of cold. I mean, senior citizens tend to start feeling cold themselves. But it's also interesting sometimes, not always, but sometimes they start to appear cold to other people. And so it's just this time, or this period of cold, this time of white. And there's icicles that form and everything during the winter, but these become the crowning jewels of our lives, I think. I don't know, I see icicles forming on trees and everywhere, and to me it's almost like they're diamonds. And I think that's just really beautiful, both in terms of winter itself, but also in terms of how that applies as a metaphor for our lives. You know, those who are seasoned members of the human family really have so many beautiful experiences, so much wisdom, so many things that they have just accumulated throughout their lives that I think are really beautiful, and are these kind of crowning jewels, or these diamonds, these icicles that decorate them. And then during this time, we're kind of stripped of our former glory, but we are just like, you know, if you think of the trees, for example, that lose all of their leaves, right? They're basically stripped of their former beauty, and they're just kind of there, bare and naked. But then they're clothed by heaven, by the glory and beauty of the white snow that falls from heaven. And I think that is also, yeah, beautiful and metaphoric in terms of us and our preparation for being taken back to our heavenly home. So yeah, I just would like to kind of share that and leave that here as a beautiful metaphor. And yeah, maybe something that we can reflect on as we go through each year, and as we enjoy each of these seasons. Maybe they can act sometimes as a bit of a reminder of our own lives, and how they are progressing and shaping and forming and preparing and developing. Yeah, I'd love to hear your comments and questions or ideas or epiphanies, if you have any. Leave them in the comments below, and I will see you next time.